Life is too short to work at a crappy company. That's why Software Engineering Daily is proud to be sponsored by Hired.com, the job marketplace for software engineers. If you accept a job through Hired, they will give you a $2,000 bonus. But as an extra bonus to our listeners, you can get an additional $2,000. That's $4,000 total if you sign up by going to softwareengineeringdaily.com and using the link on the right side of the page to sign up. Hired.com will set you up with 5 great companies for interviews. These are companies like Stripe, Facebook, Uber, companies you would actually want to work for, where you can go and learn the cutting edge of software engineering. Go to softwareengineeringdaily.com, click on the banner on the right, and try out Hired.com. Popcorn Time is a free open source application that allows for streaming of movie torrents and television show torrents. Niv Sardi is an activist and developer based in Argentina who previously worked on the main fork of Popcorn Time, which was called popcorntime.io. Niv is the founder of the Butter Project, which is a spin-out project from Popcorn Time. Niv, welcome to Software Engineering Daily.
Hey, Jeff. Nice to have me.
So, for listeners who don't know, could you explain Popcorn Time in more detail?
Okay, so Popcorn Time, we actually, I always want to make this clear, we didn't create it. We, took it over when the first team that created got stressed out and dropped off the internet. But Popcorn Time is basically, what computer scientists and nerds do. We all like to, watch content, and we look for it and we download it and then we watch it. And Popcorn Time is just an automation to do all that. So it will just grab some APIs that you have on the internet and, look for content and try to match it to IMDb and fetch from IMDb the covers, and from Track TV we'll take some metadata and show you the same content that you're looking at from any other source, just in a prettier way.
Why did the previous team get stressed out?
They got contacted by some bullies, the great name for corporate lawyers. And they just, they just decided, they got scared, basically. It was it wasn't worth it. They were not that interested, in getting into the copyright discussion and all that. So they just dropped it and say, okay, let's leave it there.
Right. Okay. So is Popcorn Time still around right now?
Well, I'm part of the people that decided to kind of fork off and go out on, the Butter side. So I can't really comment on what the guys that are still doing Popcorn will be doing, but they seem to be doing things. I'm not talking to them anymore for clear legal separation.
Okay. Right. Yeah, so just for listeners who still don't really get it, Popcorn Time is it's almost like a Netflix for torrents. Maybe you wouldn't use that language to describe it, but I've heard of people who've used it and they've described it that way. You sort of open up the application, you find whatever movie or television show you want to watch, and you just watch it. And it's like
I think it's incorrect, because the Popcorn Time UI is much nicer than Netflix.
Oh.
But that's just a taste thing,
That's funny. So as I was researching for this show, I read that the Motion Picture Association of America, the MPAA, has taken credit for the shutdown of the main Popcorn Time fork. Is the MPAA the bullies you were referring to?
They are.
Okay.
They are, and they say, again, they say they have taken down, the court orders was leaked out, so we can actually talk about this. And what they got was that they were allowed on the servers, but for investigation purposes, and it got taken down, and we don't know if they did it. What I think is that the whole trial around Popcorn Time is just really starting to feel a lot like unlawful stuff. We have been, bullied, and the other teams have been bullied from mafia-style kind of calls, and that is illegal in any country you look at it. So I think them taking credit for kicking Popcorn Time out of the web doesn't correlate to what we read in the leaked court orders.
So just to be clear, what was illegal about Popcorn Time that they were going after?
Nothing. That's the point. We checked. Popcorn
What
Time
did they
never was
allege?
illegal. They allege that some developers in Canada, but I think they're using a legal loophole in Canada, incited people in Canada to go for copyright infringement. So it's really not Popcorn Time because, the website of Popcorn Time never said you should watch copyright content. You had a lot of content on Popcorn Time that was, out of the copyright law, that were old movies and all that, and that were not under the MPAA's,
Jurisdiction?
Property. Yeah, jurisdiction and property. So what the trial, like the papers we've seen leaked out, allege is that it was just saying to people that they should be pirates. And come on, let's face it. Who has not told a friend, hey, you can watch movies on torrents and it's really great? Come on, like, if you really want to pursue that, you should put in jail every person from 13 to 55, I think, that has a computer.
So why is it that Popcorn Time can be shut down, whereas other, like there's some peer-to-peer technologies like Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin can't really be shut down. Why can Popcorn Time be shut down?
Well, Popcorn Time was never designed to be resilient. It was just like something to make the life easier. So we took a lot of the people that made it, and we kept a lot of shortcuts inside it. So it's basically an application that will go to a single point of the internet to look for content, and a single point for internet to look for metadata. And it actually was so bad that when Tract changed their API a bit, it broke all the clients, and we had to make an emergency release. So, if we had designed Popcorn Time to be a resilient thing, it would be resilient. It was not. Now, with this, media coup of MPAA, I guess that if I was still involved in Popcorn Time, I would probably try to make it resilient.
Are there a lot of forks of Popcorn Time? Is Butter just one of many, or is it?
Well, Butter is really the place where the developers went, Most of us are there. Yeah, there is another fork that I know of, but it's a company and they put adware inside it, so I wouldn't really call it a fork. They're not community centered, I don't know of any public fork. What I'm trying to do with Butter is really that anyone that wants to make a kind of Popcorn Time technology fork should share technology with us. I'm trying to make everything in Butter so generic that you can do whatever you want with it, and that we can just, combine effort, and whatever cool technology we want to make with streaming torrents, we can just make it there and not be annoyed by anyone.
Okay, that sounds super interesting. I want to get into that. But first, let's talk about Popcorn Time and just the peer-to-peer technology in general. How do you define a peer-to-peer application?
For people that never studied peer-to-peer, there is an interesting idea that you just magically find other computers and start to talk to them, and they will just give you the content that you want. That's basically the ideal of peer-to-peer technology. If you look into the details, you will find a few central servers somewhere, and bootstrapping nodes and all that. But the idea of peer-to-peer technology is basically that, to be able to make an overlay network over the internet so that you can just share any kind of data with people that you don't know. BitTorrent, that is the peer-to-peer technology that is used for Popcorn Time, is focused on content, on immutable content, so a file that will never change, and allows you to find around the global internet people that are sharing the same file that you're interested in, and to negotiate with them which one has which part of that file, and coordinate trying to get together and that everybody gets the same copy of the same file at the end of the day, basically.
So I'm curious how this works in more detail. Are these points of centralization, are these like the indexes of who has what file?
There are a lot of them. BitTorrent is an old technology now. It's more than 10 years. So the DHT that it's using, Cademelia, needs to be bootstrapped. So you need to connect to a few nodes that you must know in advance to kind of find the other nodes that may have. And it is common still for BitTorrent to use what's called a tracker, which is basically a server that people connect to and say, okay, I'm sharing this file. It's really the hash, of the content, but I'm sharing this file, and the server writes that down. And when someone else connects and asks for that file, it will, give the IDs of all the people that connected. So if you remove trackers, BitTorrent doesn't work really well.
So, as you've said, the specific type of peer-to-peer technology we're talking about is Torrent. How do you differentiate Torrent technology from the more generalized peer-to-peer technology? Like, what is specific about Torrent?
I really wouldn't say there's anything specific. Actually, there's really interesting work by a guy called Substack of implementing BitTorrent extension protocol 44, BEP44, that allows you to use the BitTorrent DHT as a global key value store. So, that really makes it super generic. Torrent was designed to share chunks of files, and there are some design decisions that are made around that, like the times that it operates on. Torrent was designed so that it doesn't really matter if you wait for 5 minutes before it starts downloading, as long as you can get some guarantees that you will get the highest speed possible. That's kind of the trade-off that have been made into BitTorrent. But if you look at the general design it's not really different from any other BitTorrent, like peer-to-peer technologies.
So you said it's like a distributed key value storage. Can you talk about that in more detail?
Well, you can make it now. Like you can just, talk to the DHT and say, DHT, store that value.
Sorry, what does DHT stand for?
The DHT is the distributed hash table. That's
okay, got it.
Okay, so basically the BitTorrent DHT, it's Cademelia, and what Cademelia does is that you can find hashes. And the way it's hacking that is that you get the hash of the content that you want, and you find a hash that is close to that, And so then you ask on Cademelia, it has a hash distance algorithm for peers that are close to your hash, and you will go finding peers that are closer to the ones that will actually have your content. Once you have that, you get a peer list, and you share this peer list with other people that connect to you. I don't know if that was clear. Anyway, what BEP44 does is that it allows you to vehiculate on top of Cademelia and on top of the DHT protocol, just general key value propagation. So I will sign a key value couple and distribute it. And then, people will distribute my key and the key value. And when I want to update it, I can say to the hash, okay, this is the new key value. Here is the signed order of changing it. And people will, be able to verify that. That makes it possible to build kind of anything you would do with a general key value store, from Git to instance messaging on top of Cademelia, totally distributed.
So who is verifying the safety or the security of you're pulling in, if you're using peer-to-peer technology, you're pulling in bits from all around. Presumably there must be some centralized source of verification that these bits are what they say they are, so you're not downloading a virus.
Okay, so BitTorrent is checksum, and actually every chunk is checksum. So when you connect to the BitTorrent network, you actually get what's called an info hash, which is a hash of all the chunks that you have on the file. So you have a really strong capacity to verify that the file you downloaded was the file that was published.
Okay.
You have also mapping, between the hash that you're trying to get, the magnet link, and the resulting info hash. Everything is hashed basically on many levels. So basically, if you trust the magnet link, you can trust the final file.
Okay, so we've done a number of shows about Bitcoin and the blockchain, and it sounds like a reasonable analogy here is in Bitcoin, you oftentimes are looking at a hash of all the previous transactions, and you compare that hash with the hash that other people have, and that's how you verify that you've got the correct transaction history. But in the case of Popcorn Time, or just in the case of peer-to-peer technology more generally, or if you're looking at music files or movie files, if you're trying to pull in a movie file from a bunch of different actors, the way that you verify first and foremost that all of these people have the same file is you can you can look at the checksum of all of these different people and assure that they all have the same checksum. Is that correct?
Exactly, and actually, Bitcoin tries to solve a really different problem. Like all the cryptography in Bitcoin is really trying to solve the double spending problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you could just say, okay, this is my wallet, this is the transaction, here's the signature, you wouldn't need all the complexity and the mining. The mining and everything is there to make it really expensive to try to double spend.
Right. Got it. So, all right. So that's an interesting deep dive into peer-to-peer technology. Let's talk a little bit more about. Well, first of all, I guess I'm curious. What was the breakthrough of Popcorn Time? And if we had peer-to-peer technology before Popcorn Time, what did Popcorn Time do?
We had a really nice logo. It's true. There were a lot of applications that were doing the very same thing as Popcorn Time. Some of them that I even liked more. But Popcorn Time had a really nice name, a really nice logo, and it was people just liked it.
Yeah, I also feel like part of it was just like there's something about it worked certainly, but there's also something about like torrent technology that I think people like are afraid of using torrent. Like some people may say like, oh yeah, I don't torrent stuff because I don't want to violate things. But I think an equal amount of people actually don't torrent things because they're kind of scared. Like they're afraid they're going to accidentally download something that's like going to give them a virus or something. And I feel like Popcorn Time had this almost like a walled garden kind of thing where like if you click on a movie, it's going to be okay. You're not going to get a virus. Do you think that's accurate?
I wouldn't know, really. I don't share your vision that people don't torrent, but maybe. I think you had the same kind of certainties with other projects. I just think, I really think, why did WhatsApp work in a world where we had ICQ and Google Talk and so many messaging technology? We even have it as Skype, and WhatsApp was just a boom. It was because it was just really easy and really nice, and people got it. But it's not really different. Like if you had, an Android phone and a Gmail account, that is basically almost everyone. But people just did not use Talk because it was not pretty, because it was not easy.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like talking about viruses after I've just talked about how you verify that peer-to-peer technology is not giving you a virus is almost like kind of like I missed the point.
No, it is. You're actually right, because there are people that were trying to put, content with problems, like the EasyTV guys. There was a big
what is that?
problem. EasyTV was a group that was doing TV shows, and the files that they put out in the end, just before they crashed, had some weird things.
Oh.
In them.
So this would be like a cabal of people that are all putting out copies of virus files.
Yeah, and people should realize that today the main attack vector is actually multimedia files that are played through, like all your multimedia app, because basically video is hard and passes of video formats are hard and they should be quick, and so they're full of bugs that are being exploited.
Oh, so if I download a video app from a malicious source, or like a video file, video file, sorry. So like if I download, Interstellar, .xvid or whatever.
That is copyrighted. I wouldn't do that.
I'm just, okay, if somebody, hypothetically, if some malicious copyright violating actor downloaded Interstellar and ran it through his video player, there's a chance you could get a virus from just playing this through a video player, you're saying?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Interesting. So you're the founder of Butter. Why was the decision made to spin Butter out of Popcorn Time?
Well, Butter is something we talked about, not exactly Butter, but like kind of splitting out popcorn into this white part and this black part was always something we talked about, because when we started, there had been 4 teams that had been shut down, and really projects and open source projects are really made by people that have really different interests. So actually almost no one, I think, had interest in actual copyright violation. Like, we didn't care. And from the people in the team of Popcorn Time, nobody was actually watching the movie there. If you're a developer and you have some kind of skills for programmation, you would just, open a terminal and download things there and just make it work, So there was this will to say, okay, we like the technology we do because it's fun to work with, and it's fun to work with streaming, and it's fun to work with all these, kind of hacky ways of exploiting BitTorrent and Node WebKit and all the technology we're using. But we don't really want to be entangled so much. We also did like that it was useful for some people, but, that was not the drive for everyone. So we started talking about making a version of Popcorn Time that, would have plugins that the users will install. And we never resolved that because the UI was going to be really complicated. And the examples we were using was Atom, the GitHub editor. And we kind of realized that Popcorn Time is this technology that is used by grandmas around the world. And we can't really expect grandmas to understand Atom. Kind of thing. So we didn't really never solve that, and it's just stayed there. And there was a branch and another implementation, and we just never agreed on how to do it. And then I don't know. I was having this idea about kind of keeping things, separating kind of the user plugins from the developers plugin. And that's basically the idea that makes Butter different from the other ideas we had. The idea of Butter is basically developers plugins. Think NPM. So you could just, grab Butter and grab some Butter plugins that you could install with the NPM-like tool and just span out whatever you need, like a Butter for your Brazilian cable TV operator that connects only to your networks and through a VPN that you wrote and has recommendation to go to the cinema and all these kind of things. I see a lot of commercial application for the kind of technology that is under Popcorn Time. I actually started to work on Popcorn Time because I'm a political advisor in Argentina. And the state was trying to see if they could make a solution to compete with Netflix that is doing a lot of dumping in the region. And why I got interested in Popcorn Time is because I see the political importance of being able to make high-quality streaming application. If the Argentina state had decided to go through with the project, they sadly didn't, they could have built, a Netflix alternative, and they could have put whatever amount of DRM and restrictions and whatever their content negotiation strategy would have led them to. They could have put it in Popcorn. But when I designed the project, I realized that would result in a huge headache to merge all those changes into Popcorn Time. So Butter is basically the way I thought then how would build, that application from the Argentinian government inside Popcorn Time without annoying anyone.
Why did the government choose not to pursue that alternative?
I will not say that it was corruption.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like... Okay, well, you will not say it's corruption. Got it. Good answer. So, I mean... you mentioned this white and black part that you're kind of trying to differentiate. Like, I guess, put the black part of Popcorn Time behind you and focus on the white part, I think is what you're indicating. What's the differentiation there? What do you have to partition?
Well, that's why, I guess most of our users could be interested in some of the content. As I told you, we are not. We would just wanted to have a high quality app, and it happened that the best API we had Hollywood movies. I don't like Hollywood movies, but I like that the app looks good, Point. I really don't care. Like, if Popcorn Time had indie movies or Bollywood movies or Chinese movies, it would give me the same satisfaction to make the app, So yeah. There are people. Obviously, some of them are the users, some of them are some part of the development team that are interested in those movies that maybe in some jurisdictions are copyright infringement. Up to now, the position of Popcorn was to be gray. It was, we don't really look at the content, which is true. We just happen to find that provider. I actually put code inside Popcorn that allows you to switch providers and wrote providers for voodoo.net and archive.org and many other things, like a lot of Argentinian state things that are not copyright infringing anywhere. But, you had this gray thing, kind of, okay, this is where we stand. We were actually integrating Voodoo, and we had Vodo, Vodo.net. And we had a lot of discussion of how it should be put, if we should mix the Vodo movies with the ETS ones or not, or put it into another tab and, all those kind of things. So it's basically gray, it's gray. It is like, we know that it's not illegal to make it, but maybe it is illegal. You should check, okay? So that's the gray Popcorn time. I feel that now with the action of the MPAA, they will just spawn out black Popcorn times. Like, yes, screw you. We are pirates, I'm not interested in that, but I can see why people will do it.
Got it. So, how many other people are working on Butter? Do you have a group of other committers you're working with?
Yeah, we're about 10, roughly. But, a lot of projects are mixing out, like from the Popcorn times, we're friends with a lot of people that do kind of streaming technologies. So it's 10 in the core team and maybe 10 people around kind of in other projects, but that we use the same technology and work together.
Are there any formalized roles or processes that you use to track each person's contributions to the software?
No, not really. There are people that have areas of interest. For instance, some guys are doing the social media. Some other guys are focusing on the Android and iOS parts. So that's, pretty contained. They just do that. There's this guy that doesn't know how to code, but is really good with CSS. There's this designer guy, and so it's just natural. It's a best effort thing. So people just do whatever they feel like. And, I'm kind of, I wouldn't say I'm leading, but people trust my judgment in some kind of situations. And that may change, It's like an open source community. Like right now, people kind of listen to me for the N word, but if a better person more aligned with the wants and needs of the people inside the project appeared, I will just step down and align behind that person.
We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor. DigitalOcean offers simple cloud infrastructure for developers. In one click, you can have a mean stack, a Rails application, an Ubuntu box, or another custom environment. Software Engineering Daily is proud to have DigitalOcean as a sponsor because DigitalOcean is the simplest cloud service provider. I've interviewed Moisey Aretsky, who is a founder of DigitalOcean, and he told me that DigitalOcean was based on this realization that other cloud service providers are so complicated. If you want things to be simple when you deploy your application, use DigitalOcean. To try DigitalOcean, go to digitalocean.com and enter promo code SEDaily. That promo code is one word, SEDaily. Now let's get back to our show. So you brought up an interesting discussion in the Slack channel on Software Engineering Daily, and I encourage any listeners who are interested in getting involved in this conversation to come on to our Slack channel. You can go to the Software Engineering Daily website and find that. But you said that Netflix's scalability problems were due to intellectual property, and that Netflix could ease those scalability problems by using peer-to-peer. Can you give more detail on this idea?
Of course. Like the delivery of Netflix is complicated because they have to encode it for every user. And that is a huge engineering issue. Like if you really do that, if you really have to encrypt a whole video file, like maybe 2 gigabytes of data that you're streaming in 1 hour to every person, that is just a huge amount of CPU that is wasted on this encryption. Like and the only reason you're encrypted with a different key to every different user, probably on every different device, is because you want to give a certain security to the content owner that you are crypting when we know that DRM is bullshit. Because if you show content on digital media, you will be able to record that content. There is absolutely no way that you can stop me from recording every frame that my computer is playing, because, it's my computer. And with my computer, I do whatever the hell I want. So you're not stopping anyone. You're just, like not saying you're wrong to the content owners.
Did Netflix content make its way onto Popcorn Time?
I don't know. I'm not looking at the sources.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Interesting. So,
but I know that Netflix content made its way to the internet because I read the newspapers. And we all know it, like all the Netflix series, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, they have been on torrent sites.
Yeah, I mean, interesting.
And you can actually see that they have been grabbed from the Netflix software. And it's logical that you will do it that way.
Well, sure. I mean, how else would they get it?
Well, Netflix has forgotten some files on some servers at some point.
That's true. History. Sure. Yeah. Good point. Okay. So yeah, DRM is flawed. Got it. Has Netflix taken a position on Popcorn Time? Have they made any comments about it?
Yeah, they said we were their biggest competitor, which I think is really funny. How would this multi-billion-dollar company that has this huge political power on the US and on the world be even threatened by a group of 20 kids? That is just ridiculous. Or if it is, it means that something much bigger than Popcorn Time is broken. Actually, there's this article that I love to take because it's a Netflix declaration. They say that piracy went down 29%. It's a month old or something. Piracy went down 29% in Australia since they launched. And I think that might actually be true. I think that the reason people use Popcorn Time was because it was the best option. Not because of the price, and if you give them a better option to watch the content, they will just use it and eventually pay for it. But I think the content market is just so ridiculous. You just have to pay to get this really bad way of consuming. Take the DVD. The DVD is old enough so that everybody knows what it is. When the DVD was out, if you went through how the DVD and the MPAA wanted you to go, you had to pay for the DVD and you had to watch the publicity. So I will pay to watch publicity, and if I downloaded the file on the internet, I would not. So it was kind of an obvious decision not to buy the DVD. You just download it, and I think that if they hadn't taken that stupid decision to force you to watch commercials, the DVD would have been a much better product, and people would have not discovered torrent sites.
So you've talked about this future where people have a desire to roll their own Netflix type of service using Popcorn Time or using Butter or using something like this. What does that look like? Like, how does that compete with stuff like YouTube, and like how do you see that?
It does exactly. What is YouTube today? YouTube today is a place where a lot of people make videos. I was just watching now, just before I talked to you, there was this really good fan film of Dragon Ball made by some French dudes. I don't know if you saw it, watch it, then I'll give you the link. But it was this amazing fan fiction with special effects, on fights and Cell and all that, 28 minutes long. And that guy was publishing on YouTube. And, he's publishing on YouTube and YouTube will make money out of his publishing there. And I think, our ability, the citizen ability to make content is getting much higher. Like, we have much more capacity. Anyone has much more capacity to make content. At the same time, I feel that the general Hollywood cinema's quality has been dropping a lot. So that makes it that today, with a few $1,000s, you can actually make some production that is on the level of the multi-million movies that are produced. So one of the important things that I see is that, people can just skip YouTube. Like, why put this huge amount of money and waste of resources in the middle that is YouTube? Just roll your own butter with your content and, get like 10 producers of small short movies and just distribute your own platform and decide how you want to monetize it. Use peer-to-peer technology so that you're not depending on server costs and just build your own business model.
It almost sounds like AWS, like what AWS did for servers, because you used to have to buy, these giant servers. It was super expensive upfront costs. And the equivalent for that with content distribution is you pay for the distribution channel. You pay the platform, you pay YouTube some percentage of your ad revenue. But that's just because they own the platform. They have their own platform. But if the platforms were in a more distributed, open, free fashion, then you could just charge however you wanted to, I guess.
Of course. I'm actually working for a startup that is building this kind of technology based on blockchain. That the startup is called BlockTech, and the product is called Alexandria. And what Alexandria is doing is trying to do exactly that, a way to publish on distributed storage content that you decide how much is worth for downloading or for streaming. And
Interesting.
I think these kind of platforms are just a really natural move of the internet. It's like we're in this moment where states and corporations are trying to restrict so much of what we can do on the internet because we have centralized the internet again. The internet was built as this decentralized thing. The reason the internet was built was that, and it was actually much worse than centralized technology. France Telecom had ATM, which had much better data throughput, but it was centralized. And the internet won because it was decentralized. TCP/IP and TCP are really bad protocols. We know it. All the people that do software know how bad the core internet technology is for many reasons. But the only good thing it has is that it was decentralized. With YouTube, with Facebook, with Google, with Dropbox, with Amazon, we have centralized it. And now that we have centralized it, there is a political momentum that allows you to say, okay, we are the center of the internet, so you should listen to us on how the internet should be run. And that is exactly what's happening. Those, huge companies that centralize the internet are trying to get laws of what the internet is and what isn't. And they are trying to destroy whatever opportunity there is for the decentralized internet to compete with them, which on a business approach is understandable. But I think also we are in the moment where the technology is mature enough and we have enough devices so that we can actually build this decentralized technology now.
Does peer-to-peer technology get better with all these mobile devices? Like, it's kind of interesting because, I think of we have all these mobile devices. It seems like these could be using a lot of bandwidth to do peer-to-peer stuff, but I don't know of any peer-to-peer applications that people use on their phone. I guess there's Skype, there's Bitcoin stuff, but what do people do with peer-to-peer on their phone?
I think they're not doing enough. I think you're right. I think Skype was peer-to-peer, but when Microsoft bought it, they kind of centralized it a lot. And actually, call quality dropped a lot when they did that. I think it's like unexplored territories. We are actually now looking at it with Butter because we're trying to think whether we want Butter to get into the Android and Apple app stores for mobile. And I think what the devs were talking to me in the last meeting is that you actually cannot, like they will just tell you that you're not allowed to put peer-to-peer. I'm not really sure why.
Was that the principle behind restricting all those Bitcoin apps? Like when the App Store did that huge purge of all the Bitcoin apps, was it for peer-to-peer technology, or was it did it have something specific to do with Bitcoin?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about that. If I tell you, I lie.
Sure. So you've been a developer and an activist for 15 years. What are you fighting for? What are your principles that are embodied by your work and your work on Butter?
Well, I'm an anarchist. I think humans run humans better than, human. Kind of what I think is that if you give opportunity for power to everyone, first the incentive of bad people to get power dilutes, and then random people will just do a much better job than people that crave power that are put in this position. And for me, Butter is exactly that. It's, what we were talking about, building a distributed internet. Well, Butter is I see kind of the media player of this distributed internet. I was talking with this guy from the Mirror project a few days ago, and what they tried to build with Mirror was basically the same thing. The thing is, Mirror was 10 years, 15 years too young, like too soon. That's what I'm interested in Butter. I'm really, kind of just trying so that we have a base technology that allows us to just say, okay, this is the way we think content should be consumed, and then have this other part of the discussion with the media company. I actually love cinema. I really want to see cinema thrive. I really want to see Latin American cinema thrive, because I think there are really a lot of wonderful productions here that the whole world should know. But the world is not knowing them because people are watching Netflix. And I don't say Netflix is a bad company, but they have some kind of content that they curate according to a political agenda, a commercial agenda, and et cetera, et cetera. And that, I think, is harming the global cinema community. I think if we have the tools so that everybody can propose their catalog and what they have to show in a good way, in a usable, nice app, we will all see more cinema and, be enlightened by more ideas of humans around the world.
So you've said you're an anarchist. Do you find yourself identifying with the hacker group Anonymous?
Anonymous has changed so much since it started, but I think they did really important things.
Are you saying they've changed kind of for the worse, or?
I'm not connected enough to what they did, but I think it got kind of depoliticized. Look, Anonymous is used in Latin America to try to make what is called a soft coup. It's a destabilization of the state through social media that is actually financiated. There have been leaks on WikiLeaks that demonstrate that it's not a conspiracy theory. It's actually a real thing, kind of governmental agency will just put money on trying to destabilize kind of leftists government in South America, and they will do that through, kind of the internet, so Twitter, Facebook, and all that. And Anonymous was against Chavez and against Evo Morales and against all these kind of iconic populist leaders in South America. So I think Anonymous in the US was really important. I think the connection with Anonymous and Occupy Wall Street and all this kind of movement got the US people to actually think they could operate on the politics, and also gave the internet community this idea that we could actually change things, that we just didn't have to listen to how things were going to be. I think, all the fights against the kind of censorship intents of the internet, and of this slow lane internet that was proposed by TIBA and Protect IP and all the thing, was a consequence of the Anonymous actions.
We interviewed a fellow Argentinian named Santiago Siri, who came on the show to talk about Democracy OS and using technology to improve society, or he called it hacktivism, I think. What are the ways that you're excited about using technology to improve the world, to change society?
I will answer you with a story. I come from a kind of a lower class family of immigrants in France, no? And I discovered Linux because a neighbor of mine showed it to me when I was 12 or 13. And this is so much transformed, my professional life. It allowed me to be an engineer and to get a good pay and all that. But it's not only that. It gave me, like discovering Linux gave me, that thing where I will just be able to connect to the internet and talk. I remember Alan Cox answered a mail of mine when I was 17 or something. I had printed it out and put it in my room as a student. And he did not even say anything much, but it just answered me. And that was a huge thing, this huge brain, one of the best, one of the best engineers, like probably the best engineer of operating system in the world, answered me, like this immigrant kid, lost in Paris. And I think this is where technology can change. It's what we call empowering. Like, I think if you demystify that technology is complicated and just, share the knowledge. First, the people that today think they cannot do technology, come from really different ways of living. Like, we have this problem that almost all engineers are white male from middle class to upper class. Like, we have this problem. It's a problem. If we actually allow more people to come with the way they're seeing and their experience, we will get better technology.
Yeah.
We will just get better technology because we'll get fresher ideas, because we'll get fresher looks. And I think also that if we allow to demystify technology as this thing that is for white males, we will actually manage to have people in, bad kind of position in their life to actually be able to construct solutions. But it's what I tell you. For me, it was not only about building technologies. It was also saying this thing that, if I can do what everybody else can do, like if I can talk with Alan Cox, then there is no reason why my house should be, kind of a mess, of my neighborhood should be a mess, and I should not rely on the state to fix my problems. I can fix it myself.
Yeah.
This is, a kind of psychological thing that if you empower people to do things that they think are complicated, then they will fix everything because they will feel invincible. And technology is pretty easy. Like, come on, we are all autistic nerds that are doing things. So if we can do it, anybody can.
Yeah, I don't know if you said autistic or artistic, but I don't really care. So yeah, and I think that's like a really good point. It's particularly like one of my favorite points that you made is like just this idea that basically right now. I mean, okay, this is weird to say that it's one of my favorite points, but that the technology right now is just for white males, basically, and like I want to see the technology that's made by all kinds of people, because I know that it's going to have synergies with the pre-existing technologies. It's going to be a win-win situation. We're going to have some amazing technologies as more people start to realize, I can do this coding thing. And, people in developing countries. And, I'm super optimistic about the expanding knowledge of coding, and how that's going to affect the ecosystem. So last question, how has working on Popcorn Time affected your personal life and your outlook on the world?
My personal life, that made it really messy because I got really, passionate about it. And so I would just, dive into Popcorn Time and get much more stressed about a Popcorn Time release than anything at work. Trying to get everything perfect and everything in time and squeeze out of everybody to ship on time so that we can, just make it work. It was like, as I told you, I spent 6 months, maybe 8 months building a political project around Popcorn Time. So it was just a huge synergy between some technically interesting things and some politically interesting things. So it just basically took all of my time during those 8 months. And I don't remember the second part of the question. I'm sorry.
It's just like how it changed your views on the world.
Well, I'm old militant, It's been 15 years that I'm thinking about politics. So right now my views on the world are changing really slowly. That is part of growing up. What I've been really surprised about Popcorn Time is mostly, how the kids that, the kind of younger developers that were in the project have evolved, kind of from just thinking that they just want to code to understanding the politics. And right now, the people that got sued, like their name are publics and their birth date are public, they're not really old, like they're all sub 30 people. And I think that them getting sued is kind of making them think about the importance of politics and technology. And the discussion I'm seeing in the places that we share on the internet is basically that is this raising of consciousness of the importance of political involvement to actually save the freedom that we have.
Well, that sounds like a great place to stop. Niv Sardi, thanks for coming out to Software Engineering Daily and talking about popcorn time and butter and really, really interesting, exciting conversation.
Thank you for having me. Sorry if I was blabbering too much.
You were not blabbering too much at all. Blabbering is what the show's for. And if you have anything interesting to announce in the future, feel free to reach out. Maybe we can do another show.
Okay, I hope to announce a butter release in the next few days, but as I told you, I crashed my computer hard drive, so that has been slowing things down. I'm just recovered some things, so it should be okay. Thank you very much, Jeff.